One of my favorite productivity aphorisms is from David Allen in the book Getting Things Done. He talks about how the brain is designed for creativity and for problem solving. It's not designed for retaining information, and that's why we need to create a second brain. The idea of the second brain technique is that things that require memory, sometimes it's handy to remember, say, your loved one's birthday, but your dentist appointment, your to-do list, your notes from a recent meeting should go into a digital filing system to free up your brain for the tasks that it's good at, creativity and problem solving. There's a book that has popularized this technique recently called literally Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. It's not necessarily new though, it's a central tenet in David Allen's book Getting Things Done, and it's also backed up by science that your brain or your short-term memory essentially can hold somewhere between 3 and 7 things. I think the research is leaning towards fewer rather than more. The benefits of using this technique are that you have fewer distractions because you're able to use your short-term memory to stay focused on what it should be. And you don't forget things like, oh yeah, I was meant to go to the dentist today. How you do it? Beginning with a brain dump. You try and get everything that is in your head out by using a piece of paper and just writing it down on your desk. And this can be done as a bit of a preemptive activity, or it can be something that while you're working, if you have a new idea, you have that piece of paper, and rather than getting distracted or rather than trying to remember it, you simply write it down immediately. And that means that at the time, potentially at the end of your day, you can have a look at what you left on your brain dump and you can move it into the appropriate place. There's also apps that can help with it. We've got a brain dump feature in FocusBear where you can write down ideas that you have. The other aspect is we talked about remembering the dentist appointment. I like to use a paper planner, but that's not enough on its own. I find that a combination of using a digital calendar and a paper planner works really well, where I use the digital planner for long-term planning, and then the night before I have my paper planner and I write out my schedule. It seems really inefficient, but it works for me because it means I'm really connected to what's going to happen, and I won't forget that I actually need to, for example, travel to the dentist. We've also got a feature in FocusBear that can help with remembering appointments. It's called Late No More, and it basically is super-powered calendar notifications where it does a pop-up, and it also even does a verbal alert so that you're not likely to be late for appointments anymore. The next thing is taking notes. Let's say you're in a meeting. You need to retain the information that is discussed. The best thing is if you don't rely on your memory. Very quickly afterwards, your memory is going to become fallible. So I find a combination of pen and paper and using apps. I tend to use Evernote for my notes, but you might prefer Notion or Obsidian or Roam Research. Whatever floats your boat there, just don't use your memory. There are some things that you do need to remember though. For example, if you're learning a foreign language, I'm learning Chinese and Spanish at the moment, or if you like to participate in Trivial Pursuit, or if you just want to be a bit more fluent at work. For example, when I'm coding, I often need to remember command line shortcuts, and it's helpful if I have them in my memory rather than having to Google them. In that situation, spaced repetition is the way to go. There's an app called Anki, which is the OG in the space. It's essentially a way of doing flashcards digitally. That means that you only need to look at the cards that you're likely to forget. If there's something that you know well, it's not going to ask you again for a couple of months. But if there's something that you haven't retained yet, then it's going to ask you frequently over a couple of days. The end result is that you can impress your friends by remembering obscure facts, and that when you're in the command line or when you're in Excel and you're trying to remember a formula, you've got it in your memory and you can bang it out, and that means you're less likely to get distracted. But our brain can only hold so much, so we really want to preserve long-term memory for the things that really matter. One other tip in terms of maximizing our brain power and making sure that we can use creativity is when we have a break. It's tempting to immediately go into our emails or to go and have a look at TikTok on breaks. But that actually means that our brain's ability to be creative and to solve problems is stymied. Because in order for us to have these breakthrough insights, we actually need to activate the diffuse mode network, which is the part of our brain which is activated when we are not doing things cognitively. If we go for a walk, wash the dishes, have a shower, anything where our body is busy and our brain is relatively free to wonder, that's when we're going to be able to have that creativity kick in. When it comes down to it, we've really only got one brain. Let's use it wisely.